Jungkook was on his way back after dropping Yumi at school. Managing everything had been exhausting for his body and even more for his mind. As he crossed the road, his vision suddenly blurred, his head starting spinning violently. He clutched his head, trying to steady himself a bit, but before he could say anything, a car rushed toward him and screeched to a stop, barely a meter away. Before he could see who it was, his body gave up. He collapsed. The last thing he heard before everything went dark was, "Oh shit, Jungkook." The steady whipping of the monitor scored the room as Jungkook's eyes slowly fluttered open. He looked around, disoriented, and then it him. Hadn't he fainted on the road? He lifted his hand weakly. A pulse oximeter was clipped to his finger, and then a soft voice called out to him, "Are you alright, Jungkook?" He slowly looked up, only to find Dr. Wine standing there. He barely nodded, his gaze still fixed on her. She walked toward him and sat beside his bed, settling on the stool. "You have to stop this," she said firmly but gently. "You are not eating properly, you are not sleeping well, and your body is dehydrated. Right now, your body thinks it's in danger," she added, holding his hands reassuringly. He looked at her hesitant. "But what will I do if I stop working?" he asked quietly. "And sleep? I try. I really do. I even beg myself to sleep. But these days, it's just making me hate sleeping." She bit her lip, thinking quietly for a moment. "You sleep alone, right?" she asked gently. "Do you have anyone in your family, someone you are comfortable with?" He nodded softly. "My younger sister." "Then you should try sleeping beside her," she said thoughtfully. "Maybe having that closeness, simple body contact will help. You might not get the nightmares then." He nodded with a small smile. "I will give you medicines," she said gently as she handed him some medicines to eat. "Make sure you take them on time." He nodded and swallowed the medicines as she lifted the glass of water to his lips, helping him gulp them. "I should go now," she said softly, about to stand, but he held her hand. "Can we be friends?" he asked hesitantly. She looked down at their hands, then back at him, and nodded with a soft smile. "Sure, Jungkook, but you need rest now." Jungkook nodded gently, letting go of her hand. The door closed behind her with a soft thud. He let out a tired sigh and closed his eyes finally, allowing the darkness to pull him in. Wine sat in her cabin, spinning her pan absent-mindedly between her fingers, lost in thought. She glanced down at the files again. The test results had just came in. She would have to cooperate closely with him. He wasn't her first patient to struggle. She had seen many people drowning in depression, trapped by trauma they couldn't escape. But Jungkook was different. He was her first patient battling so many things at once. Multiple syndromes, tangled mental struggles, wounds deeper than words, and beneath it all, she could sense it clearly, loneliness, and she knew he needed happiness just as much he needed healing. She sighed, struggling with her own feelings. She had helped many patients before, but with him, it felt different. With him, the urge wasn't just professional. She genuinely wanted to help him. She was genuinely worried, and with a quiet sigh, she decided to check on him once again. She got up and made her way to his bed. As she gently opened the door, his eyes fluttered open the moment he saw her. She called out softly, "Jungkook?" "Yes," he muttered, his voice a whisper. She walked in and sat beside him on the chair. "Jungkook," she said gently, "I want to talk to you about something important." He looked at her hesitantly. "Am I fine, Dr. Wine?" Wine sighed softly, then nodded with a reassuring smile. "You are completely fine, Jungkook." He let out a relieved breath. "But Jungkook," she continued, her tone shifting slightly. She took a deep breath. "I don't think you should stay alone." "But I have my sister," he started, only to be cut off gently. "I know," she said softly, "and I understand, but can she really take care of you all the time?" She looked at him carefully. "You are fine, yes, but you also need support, someone who's there for you, not just physically but emotionally too." Her words lingered in the quiet room. "What are you trying to say?" he asked quietly. "Please say it clearly." His voice dropped to a whisper, his face slowly turning pale. She sighed softly. "I'm saying that you need a personal therapist, Jungkook." He hesitated, then said in a low, tense voice, "But you know I can't afford it." Mine didn't look away. "I know," she said softly. Then she took a breath. "And that's why I will help you." He looked up, startled. "What?" "I mean it," she continued, calm but sure. He stiffened immediately. "Dr. Wine, I can't." She gently stopped. "This isn't pity, Jungkook, and it's not charity." Then more quietly, "This is me doing my job and caring." His throat tightened. "Why would you do that for me?" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Because I see someone who's trying very hard to survive," she said, "and because no one should fight this alone." He looked down at his hands, emotion flickering across his face. I don't know how to repay you. You don't have to, she replied softly. Just promise me one thing. He looked at her again. What? Promise me you will try, really try. After a moment, he nodded up. I promise. Ryan smiled faintly, relieved, gentle. That's enough. Tell me your address and your contact number, she said softly. He nodded slowly. I live in Dongcha-dong near Seoul Station, he said quietly, then shared his contact number. Later, Wine rang the doorbell and a moment later, the door opened to reveal Jungkook. Hey, how are you? Jungkook, she asked gently. He nodded. I'm fine. Come in, please. She stepped inside, her gaze instinctively taking in the apartment. It was plain and simple. Nothing fancy, nothing luxurious. Just enough to live in. Clean, quiet, and modest, reflecting a life built on necessity rather than comfort. He noticed her gaze and spoke quietly, a hint of self-consciousness in his tone. This is my place. It's all I can afford. She looked at him, meeting his eyes gently. Jungkook, a home doesn't have to be luxurious, she said softly. It just has to be safe. A place where you can breathe, where your worries feel lighter. He looked at her long moment, something soft settling in his eyes. You are different, he said quietly. Maybe, she said lightly, turning toward him before settling on the couch. Let me get you some coffee, he said, already heading toward the kitchen. She nodded, watching him disappear inside. The apartment felt quiet again, only the faint clatter of cups and the hum of kettle filling the space. Wine leaned back, letting her eyes wander once more. It wasn't much, but it felt honest, lived in. Jungkook returned a few minutes later, carefully holding two mugs. He handed one to her, a little hesitant as if worried whether he done it right. Thank you, she said, taking with a soft smile. He sat across from her, cradling his own mug, fingers wrapped around the warmth. For a moment, neither spoke, and somehow the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt like beginning of something unspoken. She took a small sip of her coffee. So, how have you been feeling since you were discharged? She asked gently. He shrugged slightly, better physically. Then, after a pause, the nights are still difficult. Wine nodded as if already expected that. Nightmares? He hesitated, then nodded. Almost every night. She didn't push. Instead, she said softly, Do you get any sleep at all? A little, he replied. When you may fall asleep beside me. Her expression softened. You love her a lot. She's the only reason I get up some days. There was silence again, Foreman this time. You don't talk about yourself much, Wine said quietly. What do you want, Young? Not what you need to, not what you have to survive. What do you want? He blinked, clearly caught off guard. He started, then stopped. No one's asked me that in a long time. She smiled gently, then take your time. He stared into his coffee for a few seconds. I want peace, he said finally. Just one night where I don't wake up scared. Wine's finger tightened around her mug. That's not too much to ask, she said softly. That's not much to ask, she said softly, and we will work toward that slowly. He looked up at her, then really looked at her. Thank you, he said quietly, for coming here, for listening. She met his gaze,